the speech entitled Goodbye Sailor. May we please welcome Edwyn Newman.
Many years ago, a family was on holiday on the Isle of Wight, in Yarmouth, which is on the north side to the west of Cowes and towards the Needles. The family consisted of two parents and a boy aged 12 and a daughter aged 10 and a small child. And the mother had been a keen sailor when she was young, and on a whim they saw an advert for a boat, a second-hand sailing boat, and they decided to buy it so that the 12-year-olds and the 10-year-olds could learn to sail. They were very keen to go out. The parents were a bit worried because they hadn't got much experience, although the boy had had some lessons. But he persuaded the mother that they had to go sailing, and so they were told they could take the boat out in Yarmouth and sail around the marina and the harbour, but under no circumstances to go to the Solent. Now, the Solent is the stretch of water between the Isle of Wight and the mainland, and it's known for very strong currents and changeable weather. So the 12-year-old and his 10-year-old sister set sail, and they were tooting around. It was a beautiful, beautiful day. I want you to imagine it's sunny. There are boats, there's just the faint rattle of the burgees on the tops of the masts, and a lot of sailing boats going out. It's a beautiful day. But the boy and his sister were a bit fed up because they were stuck in the harbour. There wasn't really very much wind, it's quite sheltered. And so the boy said to his sister, why don't we just go out into the Solent, we'll get a bit more sailing, and there's a proper wind, and hundreds of boats seemed to be going out. So they set off, did what the parents had told them not to, and headed off into the Solent. As they came out of the harbour, the waves were a little bit higher and the wind picked up, and they got some excellent sailing. But after about half an hour, the girl said to her brother, there don't seem to be as many boats out here as there were when we moved out. And sure enough, there'd been 200 or 300, and now there were maybe only 30 or 40. And she said also, can you see that white sky over there? And there was a cloud coming. So the boy, being quite a sensible sailor, said, okay, let's head back into the port. And so he set off to the port. Now by this time, the sea was going up and down like this. It was quite a swell, and the wind had picked up, and they found themselves on a quite close haul tack going back towards the harbour, and making a really good speed. But after 10 minutes, he said to his sister, I don't think we're getting anywhere. And indeed, the current had got up, it had changed and was heading down towards the Needles. The wind coming up from the Needles was virtually identical to the strength of the current. The boat was just going nowhere, so it was doing 6 knots and just going nowhere, but gently drifting away from Yarmouth. And the sister, who was just 10, said, I'm getting a bit cold now, and she was getting a bit frightened. And the 12-year-old boy had a look and realised that despite the fact they were making good headway, not only was the boat taking in water because it was an old one, it was clinker built, so the wooden planks are not smooth, but also they were really drifting away. And the girl said, what should we do? So he said, I think if we turn and head for the mainland, we'll have the wind behind us, we'll get on a run or a broad reach and can maybe make it across to the mainland. So he turned the boat round, and with the sail right out, they were going as fast as they could, this time with the wind behind, and they were going against the current, and yet they were still drifting, but they could see Lymington ahead. But the sky, which had started off being sunny, had gone from white to overcast to rather grey, and the sister said to the brother, look at that, and in the distance, a really black bit of sky appeared, and they could see sheets of rain coming down. Now the waves were going like this, and they could just see the land at the top of each wave, but when they got to the bottom, all they could see was water. And they were shivering, and they were pretty frightened, but they kept the boat going. And as the storm moved in, they could see they were the only boat out on the Solent, apart from 1 or 2 huge boats in the distance. And finally, after sailing for nearly an hour across the Solent, with the storm getting worse and the waves like this, they landed on the marshes outside Lymington. They weren't able to get into the channel. And they could have been really stuck, but they noticed there was a fishing boat in the distance, and it's just a little boat with an outboard motor and a chap with a sou'wester with a rod. So they yelled, "Help! Help!" as loud as they possibly could. And they waved. And finally, the chap, because of the wind, couldn't hear them shouting, but he saw them waving, he could see the sail. So he packed up his fishing rod, and he pulled in his tackle, and he motored round to them, realised they were in trouble, and he offered to tow them back into Lymington Harbour. So they got the painter and they tied it up to the boat. By this time, the 10-year-old was really shivering, and the boy let her have his jumper, which was unfortunately soaking, but at least it was a bit of extra warmth. He was shivering, they had their life jackets on, but the boat had shipped a lot of water. They managed to get the sail down, and the motorboat was powerful enough to tow them round, past the marshes, down into the main channel, and up towards Lymington. And there they were shivering, but by this time the storm had abated slightly, the rain had come off, and there was a bit of blue sky again. And of course they were in the channel going up to Lymington, and therefore it wasn't as rough, and they looked at each other and they realised what a very, very close escape they'd had. And then the Isle of Wight ferry came into sight, and it has a big bow wave. And the big bow wave created a wave like this in the channel. The fishing boat made a mistake, and he moved the wrong side of the buoy and had to correct. And as he corrected, he moved that way, the bow wave moved this way. The rope came loose, and the motorboat motored ahead, and the boy and girl in the sailing boat found it was completely full of water, turned over, and they drowned. And the guy who towed them in wasn't able to save them. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I'm very glad it wasn't me and my 10-year-old sister.